A few years ago, a friend and I were taking a road trip from Boston to Texas, Dallas, Texas, and from there we drove to Big Bend National Park, and we hiked. We hiked the Chisos Mountains, we hiked the Lost Mine Trail, 5 miles each direction at 110 degrees Fahrenheit, or 8 kilometers each way at 43.3 degrees Celsius. The views from the top were astounding. Miles and miles and miles of untouched land. I've never seen so much untouched land before. And you could go hours without a single sighting of a person. But we ran into 2 gentlemen, and everyone was really hot, and they couldn't wait to speak to us. They were older, and asked us our names and where we were from. So I said Elma, and they couldn't wait to hear where I was from. "Where's that name from?" they said. I said, "Sarajevo, Bosnia." And one of the gentlemen said, well, he looked at me at first with a puzzled look, and in a split second, his face changed from puzzled to a strong sense of self-confidence, and he uttered, "Sarajevo, I always wanted to go to Japan." And I said, "You should. The people there are very nice." And we parted our ways. Every time I'm asked where I'm from, I always say from Sarajevo, Bosnia. It's become a sense of my identity. And the longer I was away from Sarajevo, the further away from it I felt. I was born in Sarajevo, a year that I'd rather not admit to you. When I was 8 years old, my parents decided that for the sake of my younger brother and me, we would leave Sarajevo, we would escape the war, we would go to Germany, where we would spend 6 years, and the war ended. What next? My parents decided, again, for the sake of my brother and me, that we would move to the United States of America. I was devastated. I was crying, I was throwing fits. I hated everyone around me. I hated my friends who were admiring me for moving to the United States, the land of endless possibilities. Even at that point, at that young age, I felt a sense of connection with a place where I was, with a home. Having lived in Boston, United States for 16 years, I moved back to Sarajevo, all by myself. Having spent such a long time away from the place I would call my home, I felt very far away from it. People say that home is where the heart is. Biologically speaking, technically speaking, home is everywhere you are, because that's where your heart is, hopefully. So are you at home everywhere? Different cultures define homes differently. Certain cultures believe that the home and the self are interconnected. They interact with one another. Other cultures, on the other hand, believe that the self and the place are divorced from one another, completely separate. We move to a place because it offers us a better socioeconomic status. We move to a place for a better school, for more money, for a better house. We want to buy a house here and not there. Different definitions of home. My brother and I went to the best schools in Germany, and I had the luxury of a Harvard education in the United States and a career in one of the best biotechnology firms as a scientist. Yet still, regardless of what ties us to a place, whether it's socioeconomic status or money or education or whatever other benefits you have, there's something else we connect to place. There's a reason why one of the first questions we ask someone is, where are you from? It's not because we want to take a pushpin and we want to locate them on a map that means something to us. It's because when we ask them where they're from and we find out, we inadvertently tie their heritage or their place of where they're from to them. For me, the question of where I'm from is undoubtedly tied to Sarajevo, Bosnia, but where's my home is an entirely different answer. So the duality of home for me became very apparent when my parents and my brother and I would buy tickets every summer, and we would come back for a couple of weeks to Sarajevo to visit. When my friends in Boston would ask me, "Where are you going for the summer?" I would say, "Oh, I'm going home to Sarajevo." And then when those 2 weeks or 3 weeks are over, my friends or family in Sarajevo would say, "Oh, now you're going back home." And I would say, "Yes, I'm going back home." Boston and Sarajevo can be similar, but are very, very different, culturally, language-wise. And yet both I tie with the sense of home. How is it that those two places both are home to me? They're so far away from each other in every sense of the word, and yet I find both of them a home. And as I discovered that, also a sense of missing and longing started to appear as I grew older. When I was in Boston, I would miss Sarajevo. And when I was in Sarajevo, I would miss Boston. So how is that possible? So in 2013, in October of every year before that, my parents would buy tickets for the following summer of the next year. And we bought tickets for the summer of 2014. And I would announce myself, my arrival. I would call my friends, my family, we're coming in the summer. And one of my friends said, "Oh, wouldn't it be awesome if you came for the New Year, you know, in a couple of months? Don't worry, just buy the ticket, we'll set up everything for you." I didn't say no. I couldn't say no at the time. It just wasn't a no answer. So a couple of days later, I didn't answer, and I was taking the train home one evening after a really long day, and I'm on Kayak looking at tickets for Sarajevo, BOS SJJ, a few days over the New Year. And I bought it on my cell phone. So much money just gone. And I told my mom, "Mom, I bought tickets for Sarajevo." And she said, "No, we already bought those for the summer." "No, Mom, I bought them for the New Year." And she said, "No, but your dad and I already have plans for the New Year. We can't go." I'm like, "Mom, I'm going by myself." "By yourself?" "Yeah." And so I did. I went by myself. And it was wonderful. For the first time, I was alone and I could experience the city. Now, I don't know how many of you in the audience had a chance to be a diasporan, a person who has left a city, moved someplace else to live, and then come back to the city to visit. At diasporans, 2 weeks in Sarajevo are filled with endless coffees, with friends, with family you've known you had, with family you didn't know you had, and now you have them and you must have coffee, and one coffee is not enough, please come visit for more coffee, and you can't just leave after one coffee, you must come back for a full meal. 2 weeks go by and you're exhausted. Needless to say, I didn't have much time to really fully take in Sarajevo. And for the first time that 2 weeks when I was by myself, I wandered around the city, and if you watch Carrie Bradshaw's Sex and the City, she says she was on a date with New York at some point. I was on a 2-week-long date with Sarajevo, and I fell in love. I remember the Skype conversations with my parents, and I'm saying to them, oh, and I prolonged my 2 weeks. I made it 3 weeks. And I told them, I really want to live here. And my mom looks at me. What are we going to do with all your stuff? I was like, Mom, and then my dad, the pragmatic one of the two, says, well, yes, she'll be back. You know, you're under the impressions, you're under emotions, come back, think about it. So I went back in March again, but my mind was already set. I was going back to where I was from. So in March of 2013, I had a chance to give a guest lecture at International Burch University. I fell in love. I saw my place in Sarajevo. I would get to know the city where I would say, I'm from. So what does it mean? What is this sense of home and the importance of sense of home? What are the reasons for coming back? can't share all my reasons for returning with you. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't know all the reasons. I knew some of the reasons when I decided to move, but I found out more and more reasons as the time went on, as I got to know myself better as a member of the Sarajevo community. And I'm really excited to find out even more reasons why I had to come back to Sarajevo. We will get into the reasons in a little bit, but it's particularly interesting to experience a conversation between a cab driver and me when they find out that I came back to Sarajevo from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. And if you know how cab drivers in Sarajevo drive, you can imagine my fear when I told a cab driver I moved and he's driving and he's looking back at me. Is this really happening? So, why did I come back? First reasons. When you live in a place long enough, you're human, you make mistakes, sometimes you forget to appreciate it. When I lived in Boston, I would get upset that I couldn't register my car online because the internet was down. I would get really upset. I would get upset at traffic. Sometimes going home would take 2 long, excruciating hours. And then I came here, and my registration expired twice in Sarajevo. And I even tried to convince a police officer that it didn't expire, but it did expire. And then I was carless for a week. And then I remembered how easy it was to register your car in Boston. And I know that if I ever have to register my car in Boston again, I will never be upset if I lose internet. And being stuck in traffic in Sarajevo, there are maybe 10 cars in front of you, and that's considered traffic. And my friends are complaining, and my husband's complaining, and I say, when you have 100 cars in front of you and the light is teeny, teeny, tiny, that's what you call traffic, not Sarajevo traffic. But the two cities, it's as if I had to be in every single one of them to really develop a sense of gratefulness. I have to bring up my mother again, who every time she comes to Sarajevo, she's devastatingly admitting that, oh, it's such a curse to be from Sarajevo and to have escaped and come back. And then when you're in Sarajevo, you miss Boston. When you're in Boston, you miss Sarajevo, and you're always missing. And then it dawned on me, you're not always missing. You're nostalgic. You're longing for the beautiful feelings you have in every city, and not a lot of people get to say that. It means that you have support networks in each city, you have beautiful memories, you have a beautiful self in each one of those cities that you miss, in 2 places in the globe. Not a lot of people get to say that, so there's also a sense of luck in that. But nonetheless, Sarajevo and Boston are similar as well. People are amazingly alike. Discipline, hard work, creativity, appreciation of what's beautiful are all international languages. Don't know if you've heard Johnny Carson's New York Minute definition. It means an instant. It's that instant between the light turning green and the person behind you honking. That's also a similarity, as well as scientific publication records, if you're a scientist, mean the same anywhere you are. So nobody can escape that sense of being connected to the place where you are. You can't escape your environment. You're a product of it, you're in interaction with it. I can't be in 2 places at the same time. I can only be in one place at one time. But I get to call both places home. And home is undoubtedly the place where the senses of self, the line between a sense of self and a place become blurry. That is what I would call home. So to go back, I realized that if I wanted to keep calling Sarajevo the place where I was from, I would have to go back. I would have to go back and really take it in so that I can continue saying that I'm really from Sarajevo. I had to go back to the future and until another future calls me. Thank you very much.